Hello everyone, welcome to Rockshire Gaming. My name is Eric. Today we're going to be taking a look at day 6, or up to day 6, for Mordred, CMON or CMON, whichever way you say it, their newest campaign on Kickstarter. We're going to look at all the various stretch goals that have been announced, see what other accessories and whatnot have they've put out and everything. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. Before we get further into this video, I do like to say thank you to everybody who has subscribed so far to the channel. We finally hit over 200 subscribers today. It was very nice to wake up to see that we had finally hit the 200 threshold. And then I think I checked again on my lunch break today at work and realized we were at 201. So we are starting to get a little bit of push here on the channel. So I thank you guys very much for that. I thank everybody who has subscribed to the channel so far. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel so far, well, why haven't you? Go ahead and hit that button down there. We do a few of these kind of Kickstarter campaigns, more so with CMON, CMON games at the moment. But then we also do some different gameplays and unboxings. So join us, it'll be fun. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look and see what fun was had with this particular campaign up to this current time. Now I've gone back and forth with saying CMON and CMON throughout this video so far. If someone from the company would like to let me know how to actually pronounce the name, that would be great. Just because I would like to not look foolish in either direction. But anyway, so we are currently 8 days to go on Mordred. This is their day 6 as I am filming this. It started last Wednesday. Today's Monday. So yeah, 6 days. So they've currently raised $288,915 with 3,236 subscribers up to that point. Now, again, we've covered, as far as these kind of coverage videos, we've covered Marvel United Multiverse and Zombicide White Death. Both of those campaigns brought in a significant amount of cash for CMON. Again, not knowing like logistics of licensing and all that stuff. I'm not sure where they are as far as profitability goes with this. And that's not why we're going through these videos, to talk about that kind of stuff. And I also don't even have the backer numbers for those two campaigns. Not something I tracked during those campaigns and see where they were at. If you look through those videos, you can see exactly where they were at the times that I was filming those, which was late night of whatever day I put it out. So but yeah, that is where they are at with the campaign. Now, this might be a slightly longer video than other kind of videos we've done in this series. I will try to make sure to put timestamps down at the bottom, so that way you can navigate to where you want to go and anything that you want to specifically hear my opinion on or talking about. They did quite a few updates, and we're going to go into them here in a minute, but they did 3 different updates talking about different well, one was specifically on the leaders in the game, the leader characters in the game. One was talking about the factions in the game, and the other one was talking about the specific monsters. Combined with that, usually I do these videos on a day where a expansion for that particular game was announced. I failed to do that on Friday, the 14th, when one of the expansions that we're going to cover tonight was announced. We ended up doing the Marvel United Spider-Geddon video during the middle of that day, and I wasn't able to come back to do any videos at all during the weekend. It was a very busy weekend for the family and whatnot, and sometimes you just need to get away to be with your family. So we had fun over the weekend. So with that said, that means now I have to go in here and do basically 2 updates worth of updates in one video. So don't be surprised if this got cut in half. And if it did, I'll address it. But anyway, let's go ahead and just dive into what got announced. So let's go to update number 11, I believe, first. Update number 11 was a grand performance. So the Trog, which was revealed on day 1, was unlocked on day 2 at 190k. After that, we got the character Taliesin, which is another hero figure, and I'm going to kind of address the heroes later on in this. As I said, this is Taliesin. He is a hero figure. 21,000. There was an edit there. Okay, that had to move some stuff around. See, he is a bard, technically. While this bard wields a sword in combat, it is mostly ornamental. His true values lie in his charisma and his ability to bolster the spirits of men around him. You would be surprised at what a few words can do on the battlefield. There is no denying their effectiveness when men raise their arms with renewed vigor at the direst of times. A single well-played combat card can change the tide of war, and once per war, before a battle, Talisman allows you to draw 2 additional combat cards and keep 1. This ability extends to any territory adjacent to him, making your allies surrounding his territory dangerous to all enemies. So he is basically like a support character. It looks like, though he probably will have some combat usefulness. His main thing is getting those extra combat cards, kind of giving you a little bit more choice, trying to cut down on the randomness of the war sequence in the game. So that is that update right there. Going into update number 12. It took a minute to load. Still on day 2, the Herald of the Bloodiest Conflict. So Taliesin was unlocked at 210k, and then the next stretch goal was another monster character with a red cap maiden. I believe this was the 3rd red cap monster figure that we have. There she is, the red cap maiden, yelling and screaming with the other red caps carrying her into battle. Her voice, infused with arcane energies, allows her to reinvigorate and rally men around her. As useful as her powers might be, she owes no allegiance to anyone and only desires to revel in the glory of combat. Of course, her powers are available to anyone willing to use them, so like the heroes for hire kind of mentality there, or mechanic in the game. Whenever the Red Cap Maiden enters another territory, all players with units in them would be able to place 1 additional unit in that territory. Mustering within the Maiden's territory also consumes less time. Be sure to use this to your advantage and quickly muster a large enough force to overwhelm her foe. So that's her figure right there. I don't remember if I said it in the last video or not, but I do find it funny that they keep showing the painted version of the characters. I wonder if, unlike the Marvel and Zombicide and other campaigns they've done, if they are going to cut down on, because it's only a 2-week campaign. That's the other interesting thing about it. It's only 2 weeks, but since it's only a 2-week campaign, if they're going to cut down on the updates that are like similar to the painted Marvels and stuff like that, where they just show you painted versions of the figures. So yeah, that'll be interesting right there. But there is her figure. You know, again, mustering is another mechanic in the game with that language on there, if you haven't read through the rule book or anything like that. So yeah, so there's another red cap monster. Yeah, it's a monster figure there. So then we go on to our next tab here that I have, which is going into the characters of the core box, and it's unveiling the core box leaders and knights. So this is again like the big leader update that they posted. So it's been a great start to the campaign. We're excited about the days to come. So let's go explore the leaders and knights. So Mordred, Morgana, and Merlin watch over closely the conflicts taking over Britannia, evaluating carefully each faction to determine the ones with the best chances of rising to power and grant them the favor, with the ultimate goal of becoming their leader. Likewise, factions seek their support, as having a powerful leader by their side is the only way to guarantee their dominance. Okay, so basically all the factions are trying to, and even though the world is being messed up by Mordred's magic spell that he cast, everyone's trying to get the approval of a leader to be the dominant force in the land. Okay. So there's that so far. So at the start of the game, region cards are drawn to determine the leader's placement in the game, along with their coveted favor tokens. As the game's victory condition is directly related to the quantity of favor a faction can gather, the territories occupied by leaders immediately become the areas of interest in the game. These are the territories that factions will gather on, triggering battles to gain the leader's favor. So basically, every game is going to have a essentially randomized placement for the 3, maybe, leaders. They haven't announced any other leaders, but I'm assuming that other leaders will be in there. Also, with the fact that the story of Arthur being missing and not as much, as far as I can tell, tie into what's going on. It'd kind of be interesting if Arthur actually ends up being a stretch goal leader for the game or whatnot, or or put into some kind of other box, possibly with Knights of the Round Table, more so. We'll see how that goes. So, but yeah, the fact that the areas where the leaders are going to be the points of interest, and those are going to change depending on the game. It gives a little bit more, as far as I can tell from just reading through these updates, gives a little bit more variety to the game. So there's their favorite tokens right there. I would and wouldn't be surprised, especially since we're already getting the stronghold tokens as actual uh, like miniatures in the game. I'm wondering if they're going to go ahead and do a for the tokens here. I don't know if they're going to go ahead and do plastic tokens for this and replace all these tokens, but that'll be a week from now when we probably find that out. Although the leader's placement is initially defined at setup, these territories are not the permanent placement. Leaders may be swayed by factions to move to different regions through leader events, triggered when the last player marker leaves its sector on the chaos dial. The player that triggered the event decides the new position of the leaders. This is quite relevant as this action is the main source of how more favors appear on the board, which essentially means that the player in control of the effect is also the one who decides the next areas of interest in the game. If this action is taken wisely by simply moving the leaders, not only the player gains the benefit to improve their chances of gathering, but also disrupting plans of opposing factions influencing it. So basically, you're going to be able to move the leaders around, basically potentially screwing up someone else's turn or what they had planned to do if they move around. So that's pretty cool. So it gives it a little bit of, I mean, you're playing on a shared board already, so it gives it a little less of a solitaire kind of environment. The fact that you're going to be able to manipulate the leaders, move them to certain places, and potentially screw up your opponents. I take a little drink. In addition to the favor that can be gained at the end of a conflict, each leader also grants benefits to the faction through fate cards, effects, and to those that hold a large amount of their favor through the effects of leader cards. Leader cards are double-sided, and each side has a different effect. The basic side, recommended for use of play, effect takes place at the end of the game, granting factions with the most favor of each of the three leaders 3 extra flavor. I probably read that completely wrong. The regular side, however, in addition to the basic effect, carries an ongoing effect that can be triggered throughout the game at different times for each leader and benefits. So yeah, so there's a basic side, a regular side. The basic side just gives you end game scoring, whereas the other side gives you continual buffs and whatnot throughout the game. So that's pretty cool. And there's the tokens that will be in there, looks like, for the strongholds, but then you're also going to, if you pledge to this in your stretch goal box, you will have the actual miniatures for those. Leaders are also the ones with connections in both realms and control the paths between them. Factions can make use of their strongholds to teleport between Britannia and the mysterious Lost Islands. The first faction brave enough to use each, I'm saying stronghold because I don't know how to say that word, travel to the unknown is also rewarded by the respective leader and favorite token upon their arrival. So that's pretty cool. So then they go into a little bit of the actual characters themselves. So there is Mordred, again with his basic side card, and I'm assuming his regular side card. You can tell like how much more reading there is, that it's going to have more varied effects. Let's see. Mordred, the reason this conflict plagues the land of Britannia, is a master tactician that revels in disrupting the seamless movement of his foes. With meticulous planning, he creates diversions and orchestrates chaos on the battlefield, breaking the formations of his foes and forcing them out of position. It says if you have at least 5 favor from Mordred after a march, mechanic in the game, you may spend 1, whatever that is, to move 1 or more opponent units that are not in battle to an adjacent territory. So basically moving around different opponents across the battlefield. It's pretty interesting. And then you also still get the end game effect down there. So there is the front side and the back side of his miniature, and there with his crocodile chains there, I guess, there is his painted figures. Again, remember the figures come unpainted. So next we've got Morgana. It's difficult to see Mother clearly. Ours is a complicated history, and this is Mordred, so it's Mordred's mother. I think I was asking before if it was Morgan Le Fay, but I don't think it is. Again, tell me if it is. So there is her her backstory there. There are her effects. If you have 5 favor after a magic, you may spend 1, again, whatever that is, to move 1 favor token from any territory to an adjacent one. So you're moving, she's moving, not that I don't want to go through all this, but she basically is moving favor tokens around manipulate key resources across the battlefield to their advantage. Yeah, so yeah, she's moving stuff across the board. So that's pretty cool. There are her there's her figure with all her minions, it looks like, front and back, and then there is the painted version. Those look like fawns, I'm assuming is what those are. And then the man, the myth, the Disney character, not really. Merlin right there. Merlin has his other side card, +3 favors. They all give +3 favor. Yeah, they all just give +3 favor on the basic side. No specialness on the basic side. So if you have at least 5 favor from Merlin after a muster, you may spend 1, that symbol, to add an additional unit to a territory adjacent to your chief. That's pretty cool, being able to bolster up your forces for the combat ahead. So that's pretty cool there. So yeah, reciprocates the gift beyond compare more troops. So there is his figure with all his woodland animals. I gotta say, of these 3, I'm probably most impressed with his. The complexity of Morgana's having to paint under whatever that ball thing is that she's standing on top of, that cauldron or whatever. It's pretty interesting, but I do like Merlin's a lot. So especially all that detail on the back of his cloak. It just looks like he's got basically carrying on a tree behind him. So that's pretty cool. With all leaders introduced, we now look at the 4 knights. So first we're going to look at Sir Rildrum, because I think the H is probably silent. Rildrum is a seasoned campaigner, possesses the knowledge to effectively cover vast distances with his troops. Through careful planning and usage of his resources, he can maximize the mobility of his men. His mastery of logistics ensures that his forces swiftly arrive at their destination, often catching their foes by surprise for their presence. So basically, he looks like he's going to be able to move around the board quicker than most. Let's see. This knight allows a player to cover much longer distances with their forces, allowing them to march across Britannia much quicker, reducing the amount of time needed for march action by 3. So he doesn't use teleportation magic, so it would have to take at least 1 time to do so. So yeah, he basically messes with the time stat in the game. So that is pretty interesting. And there is his knightly figure right there. So Sir Blackheart. So Blackheart's curse, Sir Blackheart's cursed immortality forces him to endure an eternal existence of endless combat. He is forever destined to elude the peace afforded to him by death. With each death, he emerges unyielding and undeterred. This immortal champion embraces the chaos of the battlefield as he tirelessly searches for the destined death that eludes him. Whenever Sir Blackheart falls in battle, the curse that binds him to his mortal coil brings him back into another empty territory as he arises once again in a territory your forces control. This can prove useful if you need to bolster your forces in another territory. So he basically, in death, moves around. So I don't know if that's going to mean that you're going to send him on more dangerous areas to attempt to have him die to get somewhere else. I don't know. That'd be kind of interesting to look into and play at. But there is his figure there with his lance and sword and all of that. So there's his painted figure. Looks pretty good. Lady Elaine. So she is a natural born leader, allowing her to muster an impressive army under her banner with remarkable efficiency. Though her charisma and inspiring presence, men join her ranks in droves, allowing her to forge a formidable force. She rallies the forces under her banner, allowing you to muster units in the territory that she is in. Furthermore, when you muster, you can place an additional unit into Elaine's territory at no cost. So she's going to be utilizing that muster mechanic that is in the game. So that's pretty nifty. There is her horse and her figure and all that. There she is, all painted up. I cannot paint blonde, so that's impressive to me right there. And then we're going to go on to the last knight, Dame Britomart. So she's a formidable swordswoman and sorceress, possessing a versatile arsenal to unleash against any foe. All that yellow is going to be difficult to paint if you're a painter. I hate painting yellow. Blonde and yellow, that's just, I know it's the same color essentially, but with her deft hands, she wields her blade with great precision, and she simultaneously channels mystical energies to unleash against her foes. Mastery of both forms of combat ensure that she is able to overwhelm any foe on the battlefield. She is also treated as a mystic on top of being a warrior because of her unique talents when resolving any of her combat cards. Players will have the choice to choose between using either side of the card to better deal with the foes that dare challenge her. So double-sided card or just two halves of the card. Since I can't see the card, I don't know. But there is her armor there, her stuff there, and that's going to stink for painters. Like I said, she's got this, I'm not clicked on it. She's got this right here, this flower pattern right here that on the render is not there. Good luck, guys. So that, I believe, is that update of the leaders and the knights that come with the core box. Let's see, the next update, was that nope, that was Unleashing Blade and Magic. Sorry, I forgot where it was. So this one is going to, where are we on? We are on the 14th right now. So we are on day 3 officially. We have unlocked the Red Cap Maiden at 2300K. At 245K, we have Heather, which is another hero figure. Again, we're getting a lot of heroes. We've only gotten one knight so far. So I don't know what CMON's doing between getting more knights in the game or whatnot. If we're like, we have the 4, we've got the 4 in the main box, we've got a 5th that we got on day 1, and spoiler alert, we haven't gotten any other knights. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. So yeah, so there is Heather, 245K to unlock them. Heather is one of the rare knights that are not only skilled with the blade, but also the arcane, making her much more adept at dealing with sorcerers. Unlike most knights who are usually powerless, her mastery of the arcane allows her to blunt most magical attacks directed at her while she closes the gap and cuts down her foes. Heather gains combat defense for every opposing mystic she meets in battle. Hire her when the opponents rely heavily on mystics and watch them struggle in battle. So she's going to get defensive boost against other magic wielding characters, either heroes or other things in the game. And yeah, so there is her figure. Again, though, it talks about her being a knight up here. They're putting her in as a hero. So I don't know if a knight character specifically has to be someone on a horse, and why some of these characters are going in as heroes instead of knights. So yeah, I just gotta say that, hopefully that CMON knows what they're doing with this, again, because going through this whole update, again, not to spoil anything, but you can go to the Kickstarter page and see, but we literally only have one knight at this point in the game. So it's interesting that they introduced another mechanic as a Kickstarter exclusive mechanic, and have been more so pushing that mechanic and not the mechanic that actually comes with the core game. So kind of wondering what that's about. And if you're wondering how all that looks, well, don't look over here at me, because we're not doing any gameplay of this at the moment because we don't have it. However, these guys did. So the update number 15 on day 3 was for the Mordred gameplay video done by the Dice Tower. They did a 3-player game from start to end. I have not had time to watch this. I will try to watch it over the next couple of days because I don't think any new expansions are probably going to come out until maybe Friday. I don't think they're going to put out one on Wednesday, but yeah, if you want to go take a look at that after you're done watching this video, then you can click over to the Dice Tower video and watch them. But yeah, you can go over to update number 15 and watch that right there. All right, so the next update that came out should have been the update that I should have done a video for on Friday, talking about all this stuff up to this point. So the next update, number 16, and I think we're up at update 22 as of this point, but update number 16, rally your champions with the Warband expansion. Gather around fellow knights. Mercenaries, war brings them like crows to the battlefield. Oh, certainly fathers, noble knights would bridle at being so named. Ignore their words. Look at their actions. Are they united behind a single banner? Do these banners have a common cause? Are they equal among each other? I don't know why I stopped there. Seated at a round table? Certainly not. They've thrown in their lot with whoever they believe has the main chance. At least those warriors and diplomats you might lure to your side with coin are honest about their intentions. Their skills are worth the price, with any one of them being equal to dozens of your troops, if not hundreds. Just be aware that their allegiance is measured in coin and nothing else. So this brought basically a new expansion into the game. We've got the Kickstarter exclusive. This is not, according to this, going to retail, but for $30, you can add the Warbands expansion to your Mordred game if you are one of the, 3,000 something people that are going to get this game. So for $30, the Kickstarter exclusive Warbands expansion introduces a roster of 12 new heroes to Britannia. The expansion also adds a new blight mechanic to your game of Mordred, a foul play that corrupts the minds of men and pushes them to the brink of madness. So we've got 12 figures, 12 hero cards, 12 blight fate cards, 12 blight chaos cards, 5 blight power reference cards, and 20 blight tokens. So this is, again, another heroes expansion. Being a Kickstarter exclusive expansion, they are again going hard on the hero mechanic that they're introducing in the stretch goals. Again, I would have almost waited, I feel like, to have introduced the hero stretch goal characters for when this came out, because then it's like, oh, there's more of these heroes from the Kickstarter or from this expansion that you get to have for this. Going back again, because it's what I have a point of reference for, but almost going back to the first season of Marvel United, I feel like there was a more conscious effort during that campaign when, and maybe I'm wrong when I say this, but when they announced the Black Panther expansion, I feel like a Koei was announced after that. When the Guardians expansion was announced, I feel like that after that was when they announced Drax and Mantis in the stretch goals. They may have been introduced beforehand and kind of spoiled it, but for some reason in my mind, I remember them not introducing characters that were kind of tied to an expansion until after that expansion was announced. So again, I'm not sure why heroes were announced as stretch goals when there's a whole box of hero figures coming in, and why those hero spots at the beginning weren't given to knights. I don't know. But they did what they did, so let's go ahead and look at the heroes. Now, I'm not gonna go through. I'm gonna kind of go back down and talk about the blight mechanic if it's in here, but I don't want to necessarily waste all the time because I'm trying not. I know there's a lot of updates in here, but I don't want to go through each of these 12 heroes because we'll be here all day. But we have different heroes in the game, starting with Balin right here. That is their artwork right there. I do like the artwork for the game. It reminds me more so of like medieval, I was gonna say medieval Renaissance, but those are two completely different areas, but like medieval paintings kind of a thing. So I know that's probably what they were going for, but It's very interesting, the art style, like more of like modern medieval kind of thing. But so we have Balin as a hero here. We have Grinning Jack, who I don't know what kind of is up with that dude's grill right there. Yeah, because that's like all monstery right there. It's like an orc of some sort. So there is his stuff. Then we have Sir Kay, who I think is a knight. Again, why is he in here? I'm not sure. Again, they've got some knights that are called heroes, so we'll see that. So then we've got Palamedes, formed warrior that possesses unmatched skill in employing defensive formations. So he's going to be a defensive mercenary that you're going to be able to get. Again, they're calling them heroes, but I think they mention them as mercenaries. So who knows what's going on with there? Then we got Namui with whatever this imp thing is right here. I don't see it in there. Her shrewd analysis, quick thinking, she's able to create openings within the enemy ranks and exploit their vulnerabilities, providing her forces with a divisive range of choices. So that's pretty cool right there. It doesn't say anywhere here what that is. It's like some weird goblin fairy thing. Anyway, so then we got Sir Janus. Again, looks like a knight character, Sir. So I'm assuming Sir is knight. Like yeah, like Sir. Yeah, that's you're knighted. So again, I'm not sure what is going on with there, but Sir Janus literally fights with the might of 2 warriors, allowing players to play an additional combat card, allowing you to make up for the lack of warriors in your army and fight toe to toe with others in your battlefield. So that's pretty cool. There is his figure right there with his. You don't see it over here, but there's definitely a face in that shield. Reminds me, I can't remember what it is, but it's that one face in the N64 Zelda games that not the mirror shield, but something else. I think it was in Majora's Mask, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a decade or two since I played that. I can't remember what that's called. Let me know in the comments. So then we got Lorea or Laura or Lorea. So Dame Lorea. Again, Dame. She's a knight of some sort. She's been knighted. Her indomitable will allows her to allows her to add to your offense and defensive capabilities in an engagement while the opponents control more units than you on the battlefield. So giving you a boost to offense, giving you a boost to defense when you are outnumbered. So that's pretty interesting. Again, a lot of just the little bits we've been reading through here. I know I said I wasn't going to dive into them, but little bits as I've been scanning up and reading, like they give a lot, the heroes give a lot of variety to the game. Hi. Where the iPad is? I warned my wife that the camera is still rolling right now. She's coming for the iPad. Say hi, honey. Hi. There you go. Love you too. Bye. Uh-huh. Anyway, I sneezed and my wife came in, so I'm not sure what's going on. So I think I was saying that the little bit of information just in here, the hero figures, I'm assuming the knights as well, the hero figures give you a lot of different variability in how to play the game. They basically, the different ones give different boosts and abilities to your forces and allow you to get defensive boost, allow you to get offensive boost, allow you to move about the battlefield. Like there's a lot of interesting and change the different mechanics, like the muster mechanic, the move mechanic, changing the war phase and stuff like that. So changing the time mechanic that's in there. So there's a lot of cool things in here. In this, so they give a lot of variety. So I mean, that's the cool thing. Any game like this, you do want to have a lot of variety. You do want to have a lot of variety in the core box itself of any game, and not necessarily have to rely on stretch goals and stuff like that. But it is cool nonetheless, because again, if you're, it kind of stinks for retail, but if you're buying this, and not even just this expansion, just like with the stretch goals and everything, you're buying these games through the Kickstarter and paying basically the retail price for it, you are getting that extra boost from stretch goals, and the expansions kind of give you a more of a boost. So that's I'm gonna stop talking about that. Bagdemagus, not a Sir, so not a knight. The beginning of each war phase, he can choose to transport himself into any battlefield where your forces are engaged in. This allows players to catch their opponents by surprise when he adds his might to the battle. So again, he can just go wherever he wants as long as your forces are there. So again, that's like cool things that these characters are doing. I like them a lot. Um, they seem like they're going to make um, the game a little bit more varied, which is always a good thing. Then we've got those orc guys, Trickish. So we got his character there. When he's killed in battle, he strikes out one last time. So he back from the dead, killing things there. So there's his figure looking all whatever. Mandy, the pan wielding red cap, looks like right there with apparently babies in tow. Um, the artwork in here is crazy in this game. I gotta say that. So there's that, and then you got Blind Pete. Looks like the fog character that is a monster in there. So that is just another old man with white eyes there. But yeah, there's Blind Pete right there, and then Scurv. I read that as Scurvy for a minute. Assuming some kind of dwarf character. Yep, dwarven hunter of men and beast, and yep. So that is Scurv right there. I'm assuming he has some kind of range, but I'm not sure if that's even a mechanic in the game. Then we're going to get to the Blight mechanic. In addition to new heroes, the Warbands expansion also introduces the Blight mechanic. At a glance, it looks almost too good to be true, granting player boons without any consequences. However, if left unchecked, it may cause an in-game scenario that can leave all players on the brink of defeat. When a player completes their turn, but before resolving a chaos-style event, they have the opportunity to wield Blight powers, which don't consume any additional time. Reinforcements. Deploy up to 3 units from your reserve in any territory that doesn't already house units from other factions. This strategic move allows you to bolster your forces and seize control of key locations. There you go. Spellcasting. Tap into the arcane arts by casting a spell from your discard pile. Cool. However, once you've utilized this spell, it is removed from play. Choose your spells wisely, for they can turn the tide of battle in your favor in a tactical maneuver, a strategic retreat, or an audacious assault. You can move all units under your command from one territory to another. This ability grants you the flexibility to reposition your forces strategically, catching your opponents off guard. However, while these powers grant distinct advantages, they come at a hidden cost. Every time a Blight power is used, gain 1 Blight token. Blight tokens can also be assigned to players through the effects of the Blight Fate and Chaos cards that replace the ones originally in the game, and they have dire consequences. So yeah, so basically this is just replacing a whole set of cards that come in the main game. So instead of playing the cards, if you're using the Blight mechanic, instead of playing the cards in the main game, you're going to be using these Blight cards. So that's kind of interesting. They're just changing up the entire game there. When the game ends, the player with the most Blight tokens will be ineligible for victory. In a cruel twist of fate, if all players possess an equal number of Blight tokens, all players lose the game, and only a player without any can be victorious. Utilize Blight wisely to gain the upper hand, but be cautious not to succumb to the allure of darkness. So yeah, so there's a little bit more on that. So that's pretty interesting mechanic. It basically means like, yeah, you have these cool powers that you can use through the Blight, but then you don't want to basically use them because you don't want to gain Blight tokens, because if you have too many Blight tokens at the end of the game, you're basically just not going to win the game. And apparently you can have a situation where no one wins the game. So that would, in a competitive game, that would suck. So, I mean, when I get it's kind of like the interesting concept of it. So, not saying I would never play with the Blight tokens, but I mean it's interesting nonetheless. But so yeah, so basically this is an expansion of 12 additional heroes with this Blight mechanic added in. So take that for what it is. So we'll go ahead and take at the next, what date was this? This was, where are we at? This was July 14th. Are we still on July 14th here? Yes. So Heather was unlocked on update number 17 right into its web with the Warbands expansion at 245k, and then the next one was Lobe. It's a monster card that is a big, nasty spider. Ugh, gross. If he ever enters a territory where two faction forces are residing, they are forced to resolve a battle immediately. Units in this territory are kept on their toes, gaining additional combat offense based on the number of units you have in the territory. So yeah, this is just a big ugly spider that's going to make you fight, and that kind of that's just gross. So there is a spider. There is what it looks like all painted up with little rocks and green thingies on there that are not on the render. So you have to add those yourself. But that is update number 17. So Loeb was announced on number 17. And had I been smart enough on Friday to go ahead and do a video, this is where we would end the video, but we are going to continue on. So that means that next we're going to go to update number 18. So on the next day, July 15th, so that would have been Saturday, we have a giant in his own right. So Loeb was unlocked at 255k. And not again to bring up another game, but at this point, Marvel United would have unlocked Corsair, I think, which was the first stretch goal for that campaign. So again, make those comparisons where you were. I don't know if it's fair to make those comparisons at this point. I'm just kind of pointing that out in because it's the one I remember. But anyway, so as weekend begins, another stretch goal is unlocked, releasing the dreadful Loeb. So there's Loeb, and then we got Dagonet, which is another hero, unlocked at 265. This unassuming court jester is a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield. He makes up for his short stature with his insurmountable will. He could even stand toe-to-toe with the mightiest warriors in Britannia. So the warriors are the most common unit in the game, and Dagonet's ability takes advantage of that. For every opposing warrior he faces, he gains combat defense. The more overwhelming the opposing army, the stronger he gets. So that is that thing. So basically, you throw a big, massive army on him, he's going to get combat boosts to boot, defensive boosts for that. So it's a pretty interesting mechanic. You got to kind of plan out how you want to take him. I believe the next update is going to be the factions update. So this is the update that goes more into depth of the 4 factions that are in the game. So let's go ahead and dive into that. So unveiling the core box factions. Gather round, fellow knights. Again, fellow knights. Previously, we took a look at the leaders in the core box. Now we're going to look at the 4 playable factions. So first off, we have the humans. Humans, perception of death underwent a profound shift since the chaos. No longer mere specters, the dead are now summoned to aid the living in combat, unleashing vengeance upon their adversaries. Death becomes a weapon, a force to be reckoned with, as humanity embraces the supernatural to be used as another implement of war. So basically, humans are just going to use dead people to fight their battles for them. Aragorn. Anyway, their abilities revolve around mustering and adding units to the field, with every other card allowing them to bring additional warriors or mystics into play. On top of that, several of their abilities also involved added units or sacrificing units to gain larger benefits. Trading blows gets you and your opponent to kill 1 warrior each, with an additional bonus that you get to discard 1 of their warrior combat cards. With such a skill set, be sure to muster when you can to bring as many units as you can onto the battlefield. So there are some examples of the cards that they are going to use. Right there, the spell cards that they get. Yep, spell card right there. What is it? Combat card right there. So they are going to have a little bit different cards. These cards are going to be unique to each faction. So there is that. And then there's an example of, again, I don't want to go through all this just because at this point of me recording, I'm at 48 minutes. And so I don't want to necessarily have a super long, and you guys can also take a look at the updates too as well with me. So there is an example of their chief card, their chief figure right there, and their mystic, which is either a druid or I don't know if that little girl is a doll. I'm assuming not because she's holding a bear. But that is wild. That's a hairy dude. And then there is an example of the painted warriors here, here, and here. So it looks like you're getting at least 3 different sculpts of warriors. So next we're going to have the high elves. Operating from the shadows, the high elves prefer to employ stealth and precision in combat. They excel in operating in cells, infiltrating enemy lines with lethal intent. Their targets fall swiftly and silently, leaving no trace of their presence behind. The high elves strike fear into the hearts of their adversaries, enforcing a reign of unseen terror. So they're basically sneaking around and doing the stuff that they have. Um, so they're going to be having more of quality over quantity as far as their units. Their precognition will take out the few mystics that your opponent have, ensuring your domination of field magic. So there's the cards right there for their different spells and whatnot. Again, you can read it on the screen what it is if you do want to pause here. I don't want to go again too far into it. I'm going to keep saying that until someone shuts me up. So let's see. Illusionary Attacks is a permanent spell that allows you to swap cards after revealing them. Post Chaos, its abilities are further advanced and allow you to swap more cards. And even from your discard with any and every card at your disposal in every battle, your opponents will always be kept on their toes against high elves. So yeah, that's pretty cool ability. Anytime you can try to get back into your discard pile to reuse a power is always going to be a benefit in any game. So there's an example of their chief figure, again, all painted, so we're not probably going to get those painted updates. There's their mystic and their 1, 2, 3 different figures for that, and it's starting to rain on my end. Underground dwarves. We have the underground dwarves, specifically the underground dwarves. The underground dwarves have carved an extensive network of cave systems beneath the surface of Britannia. These networks have become their greatest asset in the battlefield, allowing them to swiftly evade and not flank their foes. So there is that. They can be summed up in a single word: hardy. Underground dwarf combat cards have defenses that are second to none, ensuring the troops' survival against any adversary. Their mystics are equally sturdy, boosting additional effects that change the battlefield on top of strong defense. Their spells in their hands support the faction with the mobilization of forces, either movement or spawning. So they're basically going to be moving around the battlefield, spawning around the battlefield, flanking their opposition. The underground dwarves will have a spell or two to help with that. So that's pretty interesting there. There is the dwarf chief, the dwarf mystic, and finally the 3 different sculpts for the dwarf warrior. I think these might be my favorite, the dwarves. And then you got the hobyars. Let's see, I've heard them called hobgoblins, which is ridiculous as they have nothing to do with goblins, except perhaps when making stew. Well, there you go. So let's see. The tribalistic hobyars embrace their unity and strength in numbers as they wage war across Britannia. United by bonds of kinship, they call upon the aid of nearby allies, swelling their ranks to overwhelm any foes they encounter. Their sheer numbers create a tie that engulfs all opposition, trampling over their adversaries. There's no doubt their tribal might, so they're basically just going to like wreck people going in. Let's see. They're all about tribe and territorial control. They function best when grouped together, as their abilities resolve around territorial adjacencies. That's pretty interesting there. Their spells affect such loss. Nurture Vengeance is a permanent spell you should try to cast early on. When you lose units, they're placed on the spell card to return to any territory you choose once chaos breaks. That's pretty cool. You get those lost figures back. So then there is the different models for those characters. So those are the different factions. I believe they're going to do the monsters next, and we'll see those here in a minute. So after that, it was update number 20. Is that update number 19? Let me go back and look. Update number 19. Yep. Number 19, number 20, a croaking good time. DragonNet was updated on the 16th. So now we're on day 5. Yeah, 5. So Bubo was the next stretch goal at 275k. Bubo is a simplistic creature that acts primarily on instinct unless there is little reasoning to be had with him. If it's hungry, it feeds. There is little you can do about it. The only thing you do about it is to keep your distance away from it. If it comes leaping towards you, the only thing you can do is run. Whenever he moves into a territory, he forces all players to move one unit from that territory into an adjacent. Plays all players to move one unit from that territory into an adjacent one. I don't know why I couldn't talk all of a sudden right there. Basically, he's going to go somewhere. You have to move at least one of your units out of the way, and basically mess up your lines. He is a big enough frog that he is eating a boat. So that is pretty cool. There is his painted figure. We are on update number 21, unveiling the core box monsters. Told you we were going to get to the monsters. So there is the monsters right there, the links to the previous updates, and then we have, first of all, Lord Fog. Lord Fog is an elemental force that emanates a dense, overworldly fog that ensnares those that are specifically attuned to magic. Within its ethereal shroud, mystics have their magical abilities severely dampened. Most mystics struggle to even stay conscious within their fog. When Lord Fog enters a territory, his fog stouches the flow of magic and forces all mystics to become unable to take any actions. So that's going to be pretty interesting to stop your mystic character. So there is the miniatures for that one, putting out the fog down there. Then we've got the Clerken, that weird, creepy mascot guy. The mischievous little prankster revels in using his arcane might to cast powerful enchantments that bewilder and confound even the most stalwart leaders. Victims of the Clerken begin losing track of time with a mere flick of his wrist. His whimsical spells leave mortals entranced in a timeless realm, trapped within his web of mischief. So he's basically going to mess with the time mechanic for a specific faction. The entire faction will literally lose track of time and advances the player to on the chaos dial. So that's pretty interesting right there. That he's going to be able to mess with the time mechanic in the game. That's gonna kind of suck. The Nightmare, which is probably still one of my favorite designs here, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, whatever that guy is, he's going to be on there. So the monstrous embodiment of terror itself, its very presence invokes a primal fear in the hearts of mortals. Those who stand in its shadows find their minds clouded by terror and their concentration shattered. Mine's always shattered myself. The Nightmare is called such because of how much it affects those with affinity for magic. When Nightmare enters a territory with a mystic present, it forces the player to place an action disc on March, paralyzing them in fear. Mystics rooted in fear will also become unable to cast spells in the presence of Nightmare. So basically messing up with your movement and messing up your spell casting abilities. That sucks. And then the Banshee characters, the Bavan Shay. Let's go say when they enter a territory, she immediately eliminates a warrior from every faction that occupies it. Not only does she eliminate warriors from a territory, but she also prevents any player from adding more warriors into territories she occupies. So she's basically going to dwindle your forces immediately and then not let you replenish. So those are some pretty harsh villains, or monsters, even in the main core game, not even going into the stuff outside of the core game. So that is update 21. Update 22, new factions emerge with the Forces of Nature expansion. This I did not expect for some reason to come out today, and I was surprised about it and thought I need to go ahead and make the update video if I'm going to continue this update series. So let's see here. Let me try to get down here. Well, newcomers to the fray. First, the Wood Elves, inevitable, I must say, having witnessed their command of time itself. I have no doubt they'll prove quite formidable. Second, those dwarves that live above ground, populating plains and rolling hills across the realm. Their motivation is the same as their subterranean brethren. Indeed, it's the same as every faction vying for my attention, power. I'd wish them luck, but their mighty war engines minimize, if not outright negate, any such need. These first two I expected, but to see the fawns marching to war, startling indeed. In truth, I had no idea they were capable of organization beyond a grand revel. And yet nature herself is threatened by the merging chaos. Perhaps they are rallying, perhaps that's their rallying cry. Well, to the victor go the spoils. I await the envoys, Mordred. So this is the Forces of Nature. It adds in 3 additional factions to the game. So as far as how they were updating things and going into stuff, yeah, that all made sense. So for a additional $50, there are going to be 3 new factions. You're going to have the Fawns, you're going to have the Plains Dwarves, and the Wood Elf figures, as well as a few other things. So each faction itself includes a chief, a mystic, and 9 warriors. Like the other ones, you're going to have the faction dashboard, 1 knight and 1 color hero base, 12 combat cards, 5 spell cards, 4 action discs, and 1 player tracker for each faction. So we're going to take a look at the different factions here. So first we have the Wood Elves. The first faction joining the battle is the Wood Elves. They are attuned to their environment. They fight and use it fully to their advantage. With careful laid ambushes and clever deployment of traps, they restrict their foes' movements on the battlefield. So, being masters of time, so they're apparently going to mess with the time. Your next action will cost only 1. Oh, that must be an hour less for time. Then discard this card. Place this card in front of your faction board as a reminder. Master time allows you once per game to a single cost of 1 unit of time. Make sure, yeah, so that's going to be messing with time there. So that is the Wood Elves. Let's see, Elven Stealth is a great permanent spell that allows you to that allows your stragglers on the battlefield to stay out of combat. Post chaos, it becomes insanely strong by adding 2 swords when you trigger a war event. Coupled with the former tactical gambit, the Wood Elves could easily dominate the battlefield. So that's pretty interesting there. There are the new figures. None of it's painted, so we might still get some painted posts there, but there they are. Plains Dwarves. I was so happy for personal reasons that Plains Dwarves were added to the game. Years and years and years ago, I don't remember the full extent of it, but when I was DMing my Dungeons and Dragons game, I on the spot, and one of my players is going to have to remind me about what exactly I did at the time, but I created a group called the Plains Dwarves. That was, I think, the situation was where I was trying to bluff the player and create the Plains Dwarves, or maybe I wasn't even playing. I think maybe I was actually playing, not DMing. But we created the Plains Dwarves, saying they were a race of dwarves that existed on the plains and were not up in the mountains and not underground. And then I brought it back during my later campaign that there was a city of plains dwarves that were basically dwarves, but they were like 7-foot tall dwarves, but they somehow descended from a group of actual dwarves that had intermarried with other races and became the plains dwarves. So yeah, when I saw this, I just started laughing. Sent this image to one of my players, and we had a good laugh about it. So let's see. The next faction joining the conflict will be the Plains Dwarves. Unlike their cousins, they prefer not to dirty their hands, using wit and technology to overpower their foes. Plains Dwarves have a way with Fae and can even wrangle in a monster or two to aid them in whittling down their foes. Let's see. They create their war machines with constructs to do their bidding. Deployed constructs bolster offense and defense within your territories, giving you an additional edge in combat. Furthermore, because construct tokens are hidden from your opponents and constantly move around, your opponents can never be sure how much additional power you have in a territory until they're flipped in combat. So basically doing a lot of building and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. The Planeswalker spells are what allow constructs to play a key role in their strategy. The low-cost permanent spell Summon Constructs allow you to bring one construct when you muster on top of your regular units. Imbue movement improves all constructs, allowing you to move freely. So they're basically going to have those construct characters that you basically need on the board in order to do a lot of the stuff that you're wanting to do. So that's pretty interesting. These are short guys, not my big, tall, Goliath-looking Plains Dwarves from my D&D campaign, but cool nonetheless. So there is your chief, there is your mystic, and there are your 1, 2, 3 warrior, and then you have the third faction, which is the fawns. not Henry Winkler, the fawns in the game. So they possess a unique challenge as their mystical nature makes them adept at spells and magic. So they're going to be spellcasting characters. A core spell for them utilizes shamanism, which treats all warriors as mystics, and vice versa. With this permanent spell, fawns can now have up to 9 mystics on the board at once. While your spell limit is based on your original mystics, fawn warriors may be used to cast spells such as mind control, which essentially converts an enemy warrior into a fawn mystic. Many of the fawn combat cards also work with shamanism, giving them an extra edge when this card has been cast. So that's pretty interesting. And you can also use spell recycling to get cards, get spell cards back from your discard pile. So that's pretty cool. This actually sounds like a pretty cool faction in the game. So there's all of your different figures for them. The expansion is going to cost, because there's a lot of plastic in there, is going to cost a whooping $50. So finally, we're going to go, I think finally, we'll check here in a second and make sure this is the last update. Nope, there's update number 24 apparently while we've been here. So to the last, so with that new expansion, Bubo was announced with all that, and then we got Boudica, which is another hero character, which apparently is being haunted by some ghosts. So Boudica fights blade strikes down any Boudica fights blade strikes down any foe that stands before, and especially so when, I don't know if I had a stroke reading that sentence. Boudica fights blade strikes down any Boudica fights blade strikes down any foe that stands before, and especially so when the odds are stacked against. I give up on that sentence. Sometimes it seems as though she revels in these moments. When things seem grim for your own forces, she will be at the forefront, pushing them forward to strike at the foes and reward vigor. It almost seems as if she revels in these moments where the odds seem grim. That the two versions of that sentence are right there. She gains offensive and defense against opponents who have more overall favor than you. Capitalize on this by engaging with opponents that have just claimed a bunch of favor on their last turn. So that's pretty interesting there. And so I don't have it here, so let's go to update 24, an overwhelming stampede. So we unlocked her very recently at 285, and then we have another monster figure. You know what? I did see this and I didn't update my list. I remember this earlier. So there is Black Horn right there. I'm gonna go back to the front page. Yeah, so we're still at, I think we're at 288.15. Let me look here. Yeah, 289. So there is that. So Black Horn right there at 295 will unlock this Kickstarter exclusive monster, Black Horn, for all backers. His allegiance lies only in the coin he is paid, and as such, he has little regard for the troops. For other troops, he mercilessly changes into battle. It's not even that late. It's only 10:20 p.m. I can't be slurring this much. Battering everyone aside with great ease, forcing units to take up defensive positions for fear of becoming his next victim. When Blackhorn enters a territory with a knight or a mystic belonging to any player, those players will be forced to eliminate one of those units. This sudden intrusion causes everyone within Blackhorn's territory to take up defensive positions, increasing the defensive capabilities of all units within his territory. So there is his figure. He looks like he is some kind of not a fawn, but maybe a fawn, but like either like a bull, was it Minotaur type character, or a fawn on steroids. Does it say anything over here what it is? The Minotaurs are a varied as any species, some living more. Bahir sees himself as a mercenary. So they basically are using this as a Minotaur. So he looks a little bit more human than most Minotaurs most depictions of Minotaurs. I was going to say most Minotaurs I've seen, but I've never actually seen a Minotaur. But depictions of a Minotaur. So that is going to be all of that. That is the last update. So we've covered days 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, going through updates 11 through 24 of Mordred. So yeah, give yourselves a hand, I guess. No. So yeah, that was everything. So basically covered all the factions to a point, um, all the leaders, all the knights, all of the monsters that are going to be in the core box. We've talked about both the Warbands and the Forces of Nature expansion, and all of the um, Kickstarter stretch goals up to this point. I know I blew through them very fast. I encourage you, if you would like to, go back into the Kickstarter campaign itself, and kind of read through a little bit of the stuff I haven't gone through. I know I kind of blew through it. I probably missed a few things, so I do apologize for that. Again, didn't want this to be a 2-hour video, especially because it should have been 2 videos already. But I like to thank you guys if you did hang on, for holding on. I like to thank you guys for helping us get to 200 subscribers. Let's go ahead and get to 300. Not tonight, but as soon as we can. So if you can, please, like I said at the top of the video, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Depending on how, because the other video is doing pretty well, as the first day video did pretty well. The first day video did pretty well. So as long as this video does well and you guys want to see these update videos, we will continue to cover this this game, and again, we'll post stuff whenever a new expansion is released or a significant update is done. But for now, that is going to be me with Mordred here. So I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, notification, like, all those things, and we will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.